One moment. Okay, excellent. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IPFS weekly meeting. This is a place where we learn what's happening in our community and the cool stuff that's being built on top of IPFS. So our format is going to be a little different today. We are going to do announcements last, and we're going to start with our two presentations. It's another thing that's changing. We have two presentations today. Our first presentation is from David Diaz, and he'll talk about the OKRs. And the second one is from Vaco Santos, and he's going to talk about DHT stress test. So why don't we begin with David? So let's begin.
All right, thank you, Portia. Cool. So let me share my screen so that I can show you some nice slides I made. Can you see my Keynote app?
Yes.
All
yes.
right. By the way, I'm trying this like multi-screen setup. So if you see my face just like looking at multiple places, it's not that I'm distracted. I'm just looking at multiple screens. Cool. So hi, everyone. Welcome to the IPFS Project Roadmap soft launch. We are really excited as IPFS community to share this with you all today. And let me first start to say that like it has been a very long journey. I know how everyone feels. We have been part of this project for quite some time, and thanks to everyone's contribution, thanks to everyone's effort, energy, and thought, we finally managed to get a moment to synchronize over a considerable amount of weeks and create a document that we are excited to share with the whole community. So lots of love to everyone that participated on this road mapping endeavor. Everyone really appreciates each other's contribution to it. So I'll try to be very brief so that we can have the other presentation on this call without eating on others' call time. So agenda is IPFS Project Roadmap. What is going to happen after the soft launch and how everyone can contribute to planning. Cool. So without further ado, I introduce you to the fantastic, first of its kind, Beyond Interplanetary, the IPFS Project Roadmap version 0.4.0. We also version our roadmaps. This document is now live on the roadmap repo. So you can go to github.com/IPFS/roadmap, and you can see all of this document there. And this document packs many, many great, amazing things. First off, the IPFS mission statement. It's the first time we as a project got this written down and something that the working groups got the chance to peer review and stand behind. So I'll just give 10 seconds for everyone to get a chance to glance through the mission statement here. Just let that sink in. All right, I see some smiley faces, some people nodding. Yes, so as IPFS project, we believe that all of the information on the internet should be uniquely and permanently content addressed on a distributed peer-to-peer web. But what does that mean? Like, it's a pretty bold statement. And so to make that more tangible, we unpacked that mission statement into goals. Some people call them visionary goals. And you can see the list here from package managers, large files, SaaS, web, good to web, and the list goes on. You can find a description for each of these very, very ambitious goals on the IPFS project roadmap. But after much thought and consideration, and because again, this is each of these goals by itself is very large and very ambitious, we had to create a sorting function to help us identify what would be the ones that we should be focusing on first, to give the whole org a sense of direction, a sense of unified direction, rather than everyone trying to do all the things at the same time. And so after the design of the sorting function, we come up to what we call the 2019 priorities. So these top 5 of our priorities basically are going to be the things that we are going to focus really hard on 2019. So you will see other working groups roadmaps reflecting much of what is described here. everything else that you see here, the remaining goals, are 2020 plus priorities. So we are not discarding them, we're not dropping them, but actually by focusing on these priorities really hard and getting them done, we will be building the foundation, like leveling up the baseline, the bar, that then will enable us into the future, the following years, to nail down the remaining goals. So what are these priorities? First starts with supporting package managers. Package managers are one of the top use cases for IPFS. It is one, multiple package management communities have been part of the project since the beginning and being part of our channels. We have multiple examples of like what can be IPFS working for package managers, such as GX that we use for the Go IPFS development, or NPM IPFS, which we are starting to use for fetching dependencies for the JS IPFS project. But there are many, many other use cases. One of the reasons why it's so interesting to prioritize package managers is because package managers have to move a lot of code around. And so IPFS by itself gives a lot of like interesting properties, from like just authenticating the code, being able to fetch the code from closed machines and make it work offline. And also attracts a whole set of developers from multiple language communities that will make the project even more interesting. The next priority is transferring large file data sets. IPFS is an interpondary file system, so it is a file system. And so we want to focus on making sure that we build the tool chains, the libraries, the examples, that we nail the stories that like will enable users to transfer files in a very simple way. Next up, we have building the decentralized web, something that we have been putting a lot of energy into, and we want to even put more energy in 2019. Basically, create the framework, the library that will enable an explosion of distributed applications to appear in 2019 and beyond. And of course, last but not the least, the two other objectives are supporting partner growth. So there's a lot of builders on top of IPFS today. And so we have been asking, getting feedback, trying to understand better their needs and priorities, and how IPFS is part of the critical path. And we are trying to make sure we hear all of those requests and we prioritize them accordingly to what is our capacity, so that we can empower and enable all of those users. And then building foundation for future goals. So this takes me back to what I'd said in the beginning, which is by really focusing really hard on these top level priorities and some things extra, we actually prepare a way better foundation for all of the other future goals that we have for the project. So these top 5 level priorities are reflected on the working group roadmaps. Each working group got their own roadmap. And so you can directly check in with the working group on like what they are planning to do, what is their progress, and like talk with them to see if there is something that you believe should be presented there or represented there, and it's not, or yeah, just learn what is the direction overall. But like kind of like reading all of these working group roadmaps is hard. Like those are like also long documents. The roadmap itself is a long document. So what we prepare for you is kind of like a distilled version of all of the goals that are present on these roadmaps, that we are describing them as epics. And so there are 8 epics in total. The first one is that we want to get the reference implementations to become production ready. And this basically means that like the implementations will become reliable for businesses to trust running them in production, and like relying on it to run their businesses, to run their projects, to run their products. The reality is actually this is already happening. Like there is already applications out there that use IPFS every day and they rely on it. Although we have only released IPFS Alpha, but we want 2019 to be the year where we invest even more energy so that the tooling, the debugging, the support is there, the API completion, etc., so that like those users can feel even more empowered, and like a whole new wave of users can like jump into the project and start relying on it as well. Second, related to the top priority, we want to support package managers to enter into the web. We want to kick off a working group to like own this set of tasks, and we want to make sure that the implementations meet the needs, the scalability and performance needs for these use cases to like be efficient to exist. Next up, scale the IPFS network. As we get more and more use cases nailed down, and as we get more users in, we need to make sure that the IPFS network is capable of scaling with that demand. And so not only we want to make sure that IPFS network scales, but also we want to make it proven by tests, by test beds, that we can indeed scale the network and we can deal with flash crowds and so on. Creating the platform that untangles the mysteries of developing an app. So again, a lot of work has been put into this already, but we want to put even more. We want to to create the toolkit that answers many of the questions from our community on how to build distributed applications, and that we have answers to many of those questions, like how to transfer state between clients, how to identify a user, how to give some permission to some piece of content or to edit that piece of content, etc. So a lot of work there. Also, big update, we are going to organize the first IPFS conference. This is a very big thing. We have done multiple events in the past, but like we are getting a conference to get the community all together and to get everyone to share their updates. This is going to be a conference for the IPFS community, for the builders on top of IPFS, and it's going to happen in Lisbon in June. I believe the dates are almost like finalized, but it's something like the second half of June. So make plans for that and come to Lisbon in the summer, which is really nice. Then everyone gets a simple way to have, share, retrieve, persist files on the websites on IPFS network. Again, this is like really basically like understanding what is blocking the users from like jumping to the IPFS network and using IPFS as like the day-to-day tool to share that files, to add and share files. And so there's a lot of work here as well. 7, we got a lot of feedback from users, and in which like they want to see more testing, more benchmarks, more performance optimizations. Like they love IPFS, they want to rely on it, but like they want to be sure that like IPFS will be able to deal with their requirements, with the amount of data that they are transferring every day. And so we'll also put a big focus on that. And last but not the least, we want to support the IPFS, the growing IPFS community. Today, we are more than 3,700 contributors, or at least like 3,700 people that contributed at least once to the project in some form, either by pull request review or research contribution or code commit. This doesn't count with all the builders on top of IPFS. It's just like people that touch directly our repos. So if you count with the larger ecosystem, it's actually way large. So we want to improve documentation. A big thing that is coming in 2019 is Proto School, so like an online academy to learn the distributed web. So yeah, stay tuned for that. So yeah, that was the roadmap. The document is live. You can go again to IPFS, github.com/IPFS/roadmap and read it all there. And like, it's a GitHub repo. You can open issues with questions. You can submit pull requests to fix typos or like to make suggestions. Just go wild, review it, give us feedback. What is happening after now that we have opened the IPFS project roadmap for the first time? Well, we are doing soft launch, right? Like, so it's happening here. We are sharing with you all. Presented on the IPFS Weekly. Okay, check. Then yes, we not only pushed the IPFS project roadmap to the repo, we also pushed each working group roadmap to the repo. So you can also give feedback to the working groups directly. So check there as well. And now we are looking forward to hear from everyone in the community to give us feedback, to review it, to see what's missing, to like ask us stuff that we like check our assumptions and help us like drive the IPFS project roadmap from version 0.4 to actually version 1, so that we can do a big launch early in January. So that's it. Like, we now want all your help. Like, we want your reviews, we want your feedback, so that we can prepare a big launch and tell the whole world that the IPFS project roadmap, the IPFS project as a roadmap, and that people can like use it as a reference point for their own planning. So yeah, version 1.0, the roadmap happening, launching early in January. We'll do like a blog post and like all of the fanfare. So that's why we are doing this announcement here. It is actually a talk. It is actually getting recorded and live streaming, but like we'll make sure like to make even a bigger wave when January arrives. So how can you contribute to planning? Again, the pull requests are open for the working group roadmaps. You can just go there and comment directly, give us feedback. It's really, really welcome. The same thing for like our OKRs planning for next quarter. So as it is tradition, we always do open OKR planning. That means that like the working groups are now using the roadmap to kind of like set direction for next quarter, set goals for next quarter. And they have these open threads where the members of the working group and anyone else that has feedback, suggestions, requests can go to that thread and propose suggestions for goals on next quarter. Of course, like it's not just because proposing a goal that like that gets like injected into the goal, the list of goals for next quarter, but like there are multiple iterations happen over those pull requests in which then people try to coalesce and identify what are the things that are most important and actually achievable next quarter, and then there's a last pass, like a review that everyone can check in and see if they agree with the objectives and key results that are set for next quarter. And that basically that last pass, the last review, is happening this Wednesday. So actually super close, right? Like, so we have this open call that is happening Wednesday. It starts at 5 p.m. UTC, and it's going to be a very long call, but like you don't need to watch all of it. Like you can always like just participate on the sections that you are most interested in, and you can listen in to the OKR's presentation by each working group. So yeah, this was like my super quick presentation of IPFS project roadmaps, just like to get it out there. I'm really looking forward to hear all your thoughts and like receive all your questions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being a really awesome community and for contributing to the project. It is really amazing to work with you all and be part of like this super important project. So yeah, I'll finish up here and perhaps I'll stop my screen share. And I'm not sure if we have time for questions here, but maybe we can take one. Portia, you are in command.
Number one, thank you very much for letting us know what's ahead for IPFS. It's really exciting. And we don't have questions now. However, could you put in a link where someone could like write an issue or put in a PR? And I'll also add that in our YouTube video. So with that being said, we're going to, awesome. Thank you. So let's go to our next presentation by Vaco Santos on stress testing DHT.
Hello all, let me just share my screen as well. Okay, so hello all, I will be presenting you today a proof of concept for a tool to simulate stress tests to our implementations of CAD-DHT using IPTB. Are you seeing my screen? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I will just paste the, oh, I can't go to the.
So we can see your screen.
Yeah, it's just to set the URL. Okay, so how do I close this? Okay, so a little story first. During this quarter, two of the main goals of the GSL P2P team was to have a DHT enabled in GS IPFS, as well as to start working on a test bed that enable us to simulate large-scale tests. So in one side, we wanted to guarantee that the DHT was good enough to be enabled in GS IPFS. And in the other point of view, for the test bed, we wanted to have a proof of concept of how we would test the DHT. Before going into any technical aspects, myself, Jacob, and Cole, we host a testbed weekly sync every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Lisbon time. If you have some ideas or you want to contribute or know what we are doing, just welcome. You are welcome to appear there. Okay, so starting in this IPTB DHT test. So the main goals of these simulations is to test two different workloads through the use of 7 different parameters. First, we can test the shared intensive workload that aims to test the DHT with frequent peers being connected and disconnected through the network, while the lookup intensive workload aims to test the network while putting and carrying a lot of data. So requirements are pretty easy, just to have installed IPTB as well as GS IPFS and Go IPFS CLI. Just one thing important, GSIPFS has not yet the DHT PR merged. So if you want to test with the GSIPFS, you should use this PR in here. Okay, so we have two different commands. The first one is simulation, while the second one is statistics. The simulation creates a JSON file with the results that we can observe with the statistics. However, the simulation also runs the statistics in the end. So we basically just want to use the simulation. Okay, so I will jam you now to this. I will start by showing you the helping menu. Okay, just getting the other one. I'll put this one running because it will take a while I explain the other one. So, okay, in the simulation command, we basically pass the parameter simulation to the tool, and we can basically decide what implementation we want to use. If we want to use IPFS, the Go implementation, or just IPFS, the number of nodes that we want to start the network, the number of iterations that we want to put and get data into the DHT, the lookup factor, which basically consists on the key replications for the number of nodes. There is, if we have 5 nodes and a lookup factor of 2, we'll have 10 different keys available, and basically we generate a random key for each iteration, and we will use it to put a random value in the DHT, and we'll use it afterwards as well to get that data from the DHT. And finally, we can also use the churn factor, which is the number of nodes that we will disconnect and connect from the network per second. So as you can check in my other tab, I ran the simulation with 5 nodes and with a churn factor of 1 node per second. I ran it in the debug mode. So as we can see, the test bed was created, RIP was initialized, and we started each one of the nodes. Meanwhile, it will take some time, but hopefully it will finish soon. So maybe while this is being running, I can continue. So for now, we really wanted to check if the JS implementation had a similar behavior to the Go one. This is like the primary goal of this tool. And then in the next quarter, we really aim to give a step forward, and we want to get this work into the testbed effort that we have also been making. And we aim to have a way to analyze the data that we obtain from these tests, which we currently do not. And when we have these results, we also want to have plans on how we should improve the DHT in order to improve these results. So I have here the results now. As you can see, this is the final analysis, and it also was created a JSON file with this for further analysis. So we basically ran 200 iterations with 5 nodes, with a lookup factor of 2 and a churn factor of 1. So for the put commands in the DHT, we got a round trip time of 278 milliseconds on average. And we have just 6 failed offline puts, which basically were due to we selected a random peer to put data, but that random peer got offline in the process. While in the get part of this, we had a round trip time of 270 milliseconds on average, failed offline 7. And this one, which is like probably one of the most important metrics right now, we expected that we would get the most recent value that we put in the DHT, but in 28 of our cases, we got a previous value instead of the most recent one. So our goals with this tool is also to have more parameters that we can add, as well as get more metrics from these simulations. we have been also discussing with John yesterday how we should add more things, what we should add, and also what are the results that we will aim to get. I've been reading some papers that he recommended me, and for now this is what we thought that would be the most important factors. So wrapping up, your feedback would be awesome. Please reach me out if you have suggestions or open issues in the repo if you prefer. It would be really helpful to have your inputs. And that's it for me. I don't know if we have any time for questions or comments.
Thank you very much. It is almost 6:30, so we have time we'll do 2 questions. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat box, and we are going to start with Johnny Crunch. Johnny Crunch?
Yeah, so my question was, as I remember, Catalama DHT actually has this idea of buckets, K buckets. So is there a way of creating the options as far as the number of buckets to use?
Now there is no option for that, but as we improve our tool, at least for the test bed, one of the things that we want to get is to have the different configurations of the lip2p in each daemon, and afterwards we can have different tests with different configurations for the CAD-DHT. We currently support it in the lip2p side, but as we are not using yet the lip2p daemon, and we are using the GS IPFS one or the Go IPFS one, we don't have, from that perspective yet, the configurations to make that possible. But it will be a next step.
Awesome, thank you. Do we have one more quick question? Put it in the chat. Okay, do we actually have a question for the previous presentation, for David's presentation? Going once, going twice. All right, so that is the end of our, oh, I see a hand, Johnny Crunch again.
So David, how about, so what are the plans as far as commercial partners for IPFS? So I don't think that was actually on the roadmaps. So right now, is it really very much still like a open source development community, or is there a roadmap for commercial partners?
So the roadmap like really contemplates like the plans of the IPFS project, the goals that the IPFS project is trying to achieve. And also we try to acknowledge that there are builders on the IPFS, some of them like running businesses on top of like the protocol. And so we want to make sure that like IPFS deploys like the features that those partners need to in order for them to be successful. Of course, if it falls within the scope, like within the objectives of IPFS, it is a thing that we have open as a channel. Like we are still like getting more feedback. Like we welcome like any partner to reach out to us and like tell us what they need, like what are the challenges, like what are the bottlenecks, what are the issues that they are seeing, and like work with us to make sure like we can meet those needs, like that we can like ship those bug fixes, ship those features. And so like we are super interested in that information. As for, I don't know if there was like another question in your question about us, if IPFS, the project is going to develop any commercial product in 2019, like the IPFS, the project itself. There is no plan internally to do that. Like we will continue focusing on the infrastructure, on the protocol, and making sure that we work closely with our users to get the things out that like will enable then the users build those products, build those applications.
Awesome. With that, we will conclude our call, but I want to give a thanks to Vasco. Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you, David. I would also like to thank Terry for taking notes. And
engineering groups, they've got a owner has like a family office direct VC firm.
Just reminder/announcement that there won't be a call next week or the week following due to the holidays.
Right.
So I think Portia's going to be updating the call invite for everyone. So keep your eyes peeled for an IPFS weekly call invite to start up in January.
So I've got to.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, that is it. Thank you, everyone. I will see you in the new year.